Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hello, my name is Hannah, and in today's video is going to be kind of spilling the tea on myself. I know it sounds a little weird, but it's true. Today I'm going to be discussing our TTC journey as well as talking about postpartum depression. So there's a lot of things that we need to discuss, so let's just get into it. So as you guys know, Anthony and I are trying to conceive baby number 2. We are technically on cycle 2, but we've been trying for sort of 3 months. And I say sort of because we were baby dancing, if you will, but we weren't really tracking my cycle. We weren't really into it. It was like our first experiment at actually saying, yes, this is what we want. And we knew this year that we wanted to start trying for baby number 2, but we had a lot of fears and unknown territories that we were new to feeling. After we had our daughter, we never really discussed having another baby. If we wanted more babies, we never really discussed any of that. My husband left the toenail clippers. I apologize. Anyways, so we hadn't really discussed any of that. We knew when Alicia turned 3, that's when we would start opening the discussion, because after I had my daughter, I did end up going through postpartum depression. Now, I'm gonna say that with a grain of salt, only because I was never truly diagnosed with postpartum depression. I never had a doctor tell me that or anything, but from everything that I know now about postpartum depression, I am confident in saying that that is what I had, because I had never experienced anything like that before. For a long time, I was struggling with denial with that. So when we talk more about my postpartum depression in a little bit, I'll get more into that on how I really came to terms with that. But right now, we're talking about our TC journey. So Hannah, get back on the spindle. Anyways, so yes, like I said, we are on cycle 2, and this last month so I've always been really in tune with my body, so knowing when I ovulate, and I am very knowledgeable of my cycle, not so much everybody else's cycle, but obviously mine, because I know my body. And I've been this way since I was a kid. I always knew. I've always been level-headed when it came to things going on in my body. I'm one of those people that really don't like to go to the hospital unless I truly need to. So if I'm in excruciating pain, or I absolutely broke something, or like, it has to be very serious for me to actually get up and go to the doctors, because I have a lot of anxiety, and so the fear of rejection is like them telling me like, girl, you're fine, go home, but I'm in excruciating pain, would freak me out. I don't know. I'm just one of those people that just really listen to my body, and if I feel like I need to go, then I go. Anyways, so the first month, I was tracking my cycle the way I normally track my cycle. I have my period, aunt flow, whatever you want to call it, and then, I go through my cycle. The first month I couldn't spot when I ovulated, which is very, very weird for me, because I have the Flow app, and I know that's not accurate for everybody, but it's been pretty spot on for me after I had my daughter. That's a whole nother story. I'll get into it. But whenever the Flow app would show that I would be ovulating, before I even looked at it, because I was not one of those weird people that looked at it all the time, it would just send me random updates every once in a while. So typically on a regular month, I would feel pain either on my left side or my right side, and then I get cramping and I get back cramps too. And so when I feel that, I'm like, I've got to be ovulating. If I have already just had my period and it's like in between that spot, like I know that was me ovulating. I would check my Flow app and sure enough, it would be that. If I took an ovulation strip test, sure enough, it would be me ovulating. Last month, I wasn't able to identify any of those markers. It was so weird. I was like, of course, the first month that we officially start trying, none of this is gonna work out for me. Like, there's nothing in my favor to even give me a chance, which I know it's very rare to get pregnant on the first cycle. I'm not even stressing about it. We are taking our time, we're having fun. We have a trip in July to Hawaii, so if I don't get pregnant, I am totally okay because I would like to drink on my vacation. If I get pregnant, I will happily go to Hawaii being pregnant and enjoying watching my husband go out and do whatever the heck he wants to do, you know? So yeah, so that was weird. And then on top of that, when I was supposed to start my period, I didn't. I was a whole week late. I think it was exactly 7 days late. And I was like, what's going on? I don't know. When I ovulated, I could have ovulated really late, which is why my period would have started late, but that's never happened. I'm very, very regular with my cycles. What the heck is going on? And I held on to a little bit of hope that I could be, but I wasn't. I ended up having really bad pains in my side, and it really felt like the gallstone pains that I had when I was pregnant with my daughter. And I was like, oh heck no, is this coming back? Because my body ended up passing it. I never had to get surgery, I never had to get anything, thankfully. So my body ended up passing it, so the fact that I would possibly be getting another one of these back really freaked me out because I was in so much pain, and the last time I had that pain was when I was pregnant. But yeah, so I went into the emergency room, they did blood tests and everything came back negative, and then a couple days after I got out of the hospital, a couple of days after that night in the emergency room, I did not spend days or anything in there, I ended up starting my anti-flow period, whatever you want to call it. This month I have been able to spot my ovulation. I had confirmations from OPK kits. My body was definitely showing all the regular signs and everything, and Anthony and I baby danced all month, and it's been a month. So yeah, I'm not going to be doing many TTC videos because quite frankly I don't really know what I'm talking about and I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to get pregnant. Doing a whole bunch of TTC videos, but I will be doing TTC updates on our journey on what's going on with that. And then yeah, so now let's talk about postpartum depression. So I really wanted to kind of group these two video ideas together because dealing with postpartum depression after having a child seriously is like the most mind-tormenting thing in the world. So growing up, I knew I've always wanted to have a large family. I knew I wanted to have 7 children. And yes, girl, I know 7 children. What the? But I grew up as the middle child of 7 children, and I grew up as the middle child of 7 children, and I really loved having a large support team. Obviously, we didn't always agree on everything, but when everything hit the fan, I knew my siblings would have my back. If I ever got into any fights, I had siblings that had my back. They were just there, and I loved them, and I loved having them around. Granted, we're all adults now, and we have but yeah, so I knew I wanted to have a large family, and when I met Anthony, he wanted to have 3, maybe 4, and that was a good number I could compromise because I knew whenever I became a parent that there would be struggles like postpartum depression and stuff like that. So things I couldn't account for as not being a mother. So I told him I can work with that. Our relationship evolved. We had our daughter. Bada boom. Postpartum depression hit. And for the beginning of it, I truly believed that I had baby blues, if you will. And I only thought this because when I thought about depression, I imagine it being very, very heavy and consuming. And that's not what I really had. It did consume me, but it wasn't heavy. Like, I don't know, I just always pictured it being super, super heavy, like almost hard to breathe, like, and sometimes it can get like that. But for me, I thought it was like all the time, and I thought you had to have suicidal thoughts. I thought, you know, if, like for an example, if you're driving a car and you're driving along and you're like, I could really drive off this cliff right now and I would be okay with dying. I thought depression was those type of thoughts. I had no idea that in my case, if I'm driving in a car, I'm like, a car could run a red light and hit me and I would be okay. I don't want to die. Like, no, I would be severely sad if I died, but like it wouldn't be bad to get a couple scrapes and bruises, you know, and go to the hospital. Like, I would be fine. And I had gone months thinking random thoughts like that. I'm like, is that a bad thought to have? I had no idea if that was like one of those things, and it was for me. Some earlier signs before I started having random thoughts like that, they weren't like let's do it thoughts, but it was more like, if it did, I mean, it's not as bad as committing suicide, or it's not as bad as actually dying, or it's not as bad as, you know, like they were like lesson learns in my head. Like, I mean, if that happened, I would learn my lesson. I would never not check the roads, you know what I'm saying? But before I started having those thoughts, I started noticing that instantly when I got home from the hospital, I had a fog just like kind of consume the space around me. Everything felt thick, and kind of like I was a robot. Like, I didn't have any thoughts, I didn't have any feelings, I didn't have any emotions, I didn't, you know, really need human interaction to be okay. And it just came to basic needs. Okay, Alicia's crying, get up, figure out what she needs. Is she hungry? Does she need a diaper change? Does she need to be changed? Like, did she spit up all over herself? Okay, cool, now it's time to wake up for the day or whatever. You know, let's make sure she gets her tummy time in. Let's make sure she does this. Let's make sure, you know, so that way she's growing. And, you know, I just kind of put myself in like a survival mode at that point. And I don't know how or what that switch was that was so defining. Like, I don't know exactly how it happened, but it did. And it really took a huge toll on me. I was getting super irritable in the middle of the night whenever Alicia would wake up crying because she was hungry or she needed a diaper change or whatever. Like, I would find myself getting really angry, not at her, and I would never direct any of it towards her, but like to hear the cry and then have to get up. Like, I was mad at the situation, and I knew, like, and this is another reason why I figured it could be baby blues, is because like I had control over it in a sense. Like, I knew if I got up angry, okay, take a breather, Hannah, calm down. And I would never, ever take it out on my daughter. I would never make her feel neglected. I would never, you know, like I said, I was in survival mode, is make sure she survives, not me survive, her survive. And yeah, so because of little moments like that where I'm like, okay, I know I'm mad. I know this is my baby blues. I'm not going to take it out on my daughter because obviously she doesn't deserve it. She's an infant. There's nothing that I can do about it, and there's nothing she can do about it. I need to make sure she is comfortable. And so because I would have such reasonable thoughts, I thought, okay, for sure, definitely not postpartum depression or anything like that. I thought just baby blues, because I truly believe that I could see a light at the end of the tunnel. And it's all metaphorically, obviously. It's just like I could feel the weight around me, but I didn't feel the weight on me. And I knew at some point I would get out of the water or out of whatever it was that was surrounding me. I felt like I could see that there was, you know, the sun above the water when you're looking under the water, you know, like, and I was like, eventually it'll come back. A month after delivering her, I did feel a little bit better. I started being able to actually smile and not get angry at situations irrationally. I became more self-aware, and I don't want to say it's because, you know, because I had baby blues or whatever. I truly believe that's just my personality. Even when I get into a fight with Anthony, like, I do not like confrontation. I have a lot of anxiety, so when I have to confront things, I'm like, okay, you stole my money, let's talk about this. Do you need help? Are you that person? Do you need help? Do you, whatever. Okay, let's work out a payment plan. You know, like, I don't need all the money right now. Whatever, like, obviously you're struggling with something, let's figure it out. And I've always been that type of mentality thinker. So when Anthony pisses me off or something, I can take a step back and I'm like, okay, clearly he's aggravated because maybe I didn't do the dishes, or, you know, I've let the dishes sit in the sink for days hoping he would do them, you know, like, obviously that's something he would be mad about. I would be mad if he did that to me too, whatever. And so I take a step back and I'm like, okay, I understand this is what I did. This is what I'm going to do to make it better now and for the future, so that way I don't fall into random habits like that. Because when you're going through postpartum depression, like, the lack of energy to do anything is relentless and ridiculous, and it's a pain in the butt. And I definitely had a lack of interest for anything. I didn't want to get up and clean. I didn't want to get up and take a shower some days. Like, it would be a day, 2 days, sometimes 3 days before I would be able to get the gumption up to go and take a shower, you know. So I would do little things around, or not do little things around the house, and hoping that Anthony would take care of it because he knew that I was struggling. And, you know, and I don't like to be manipulative like that, and so I do let him know, like, I apologize, that's exactly what I was doing. I can see that. This is how I'm gonna make it better. Now, if by any chance I do fall into something like this again, I need you to be a little bit more sensitive with your words, because I'm trying not to go back crazy over here. And I will do my best to make it easier for you. But next time when you start feeling overwhelmed, like, babe, the dishes have been sitting here for 2 days, are you gonna do it, or are you trying to give a sign to me or whatever, you know? And I try to make him more mindful of me as well, but I don't like confrontation, so most of the time I'm that person. Okay, you know what, fine, you're saying I did something, obviously something did trigger you, your feelings are valid and whatever, so this is what I'm gonna do. I just need you to work with me. Yeah, so after I started feeling a little bit lighter and a little bit better, I did start noticing that I was having the lack of will to do anything. I really did not want to get up and do anything, and I had a lot of dreams, I had a lot of aspirations, and then I would be so mad at myself because I knew I wasn't going to get off the couch to do it. And that was a struggle for myself because I felt so gross and guilty about myself, like, or not guilty, but like mad at myself because I wasn't pushing myself hard enough, or I didn't have enough willpower, I didn't whatever, you know, and I would be so angry with myself. And then Anthony's over here being Mr. Amazing freaking father. Like, he's over here cleaning up after me, cleaning up after Alicia, making sure Alicia has school clothes ready for the next day, lunches and everything. And for for the last couple of years, I haven't had my license. I actually just got my license, so he was our chauffeur. He was the guy who took us to our doctor's appointments and all of that stuff. And eventually it got easier to deal with. Then I started driving, and then I felt a little bit more like secure, if you will. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I just started feeling better, and I would be driving, I'd have all my windows rolled down, I'd blast the music like crazy, and then I would just be observing everything, and I really felt like I was getting better. And then I started having these thoughts like, ooh, that guy's getting ready to run out of that parking lot. He better not hit me. I'm like, well, actually, it wouldn't be bad if he hit me, as long as I don't die, like, I'm okay with it. And then I had shared that story with somebody. I can't remember who it was. I had shared that story with somebody, and they're like, whoa, that's a really deep thought. Like, you should probably go get yourself checked out. And I didn't even think about it. Then I started actually like researching what postpartum depression was, because they had told me, like, that sounds like postpartum depression, Hannah, you should go get that checked out. So I started researching it, and I see a lot of other girls' stories, and what they went through, what they're going through, what I'm still going through. And I was shook to my core on how big this is, how many women experience it after having their first child. For me, I thought instantly I would connect so hard with my daughter, be the best mother I could, whatever. And then as soon as postpartum hits, like, I'm not the mother that I thought I was. There was a lot of exceptions that I was okay with, that I wasn't okay with before I had a child. So, like, letting her sit down and watch my phone, I was like, heck no, none of my kids are gonna be on tablets, phones, and anything. Like, you guys are ridiculous buying your 5-year-olds tablets and stuff like that. I'm that mother. I'm now that mother. And it's so funny because you always hear people say, like, never say never, especially when it comes to parenting, because you don't know what works for your kids. You don't know what works for you. You don't know what works for your lifestyle, and sometimes it's just a little bit easier, and that's okay. But yeah, so the reason why I wanted to share my story today was because there was a couple things that I had no idea of, and I figured it would be really great. So because of the diversity of symptoms and signs, you never really know, and that's why it's always important to talk with your doctor, your primary care, whoever. Even if, like, you do think you have baby blues or whatever, just say, hey doc, this is how I'm feeling, and he can help you, and you don't need to take medication for it, you don't need to do any of that, but just let somebody know, so that way if shit hits the fan, you always have your backup plan. And that's always good, because you want to make sure you're as healthy as you can be to take care of your child. So that's going to conclude this video today. If you guys enjoyed it, hit the like button, subscribe. Like I said, I make a whole bunch of random videos here on my channel, and I hope at least most of them will interest you to subscribe. Like, what? That would be crazy. All right, I'll see you guys later. I have family here, and yeah, so all right, bye guys.